democracy in
Tinubu
Nigeria.
and his people created a militia, Daniel. Who said those words?
Tinubu brought in leadership
skills
into governance.
Tinubu and his people created a militia. Who said those words?
Tinubu and his people never created the militias.
So why did you say they did on January 22nd, 2023?
I never said that.
The candidate of All Progressives Congress, Bwala Al Tinubu, and his people created a militia. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria we are seeing a political party creating a militant arm leading to election.
Never created a militia. Tinubu is one of the foremost politicians in Nigerian history.
Tinubu and his people created
democracy.
a militia. Who said those words, Daniel?
Tinubu has helped in strengthening democracy in
Tinubu
Nigeria.
and his people created a militia, Daniel. Who said those words?
Tinubu brought in leadership skills into governance.
Tinubu and his people created a militia. Who said those words?
Tinubu and his people never created the militias.
So why did you say they did on January 22nd, 2023?
I never said that.
The candidate of All Progressives Congress, Bwala Al Tinubu, and his people created a militia. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria we are seeing a political party creating a militant arm leading to election.
Does he have a militia that tried to kill you?
He doesn't have. I never said he tried to kill me.
I myself have received threats from him and his camp. Your words.
I never said that.
There is also this threat to life, and I can tell you that because I myself have received threats from Asiwaju and his camp.
You said it was so corrupt, the 2023 election, Tinubu's win, you said that you couldn't eat food for 3 days.
I never said that. Where?
And legitimate complaints were raised all over Nigeria. That part is what threw me off balance. In fact, I became so sick. For the past 3 days, I found it very hard eating food.
Tinubu is not just super rich. It's what he does with his wealth. In 2019, 2 armored money trucks, bullion vans, were seen going into his house, coming out of his house. Where did that money go?
No. Point. Did you see the money? Or those who reported, did they see money inside the bullion van?
Was there no money in the bullion vans?
How am I to know?
You said it was money in the vans at the time.
I never
2023, February.
But there is only one person in Nigeria who is alleged to have moved money through bullion vans, and that person is on their ballot as the presidential candidate.
On the eve of the presidential elections, 2 cash-laden bullion vans, your words, were seen on the premises, which was ostensibly for vote buying. Your words, January 22nd, 2023. Have you just disowned everything you've said in order to work for this president?
I'm coming. What you just said now, I want to put it on record, on my own honor. That's not what I said.
Last question on this. How can Nigerians take Tinubu seriously on eliminating corruption when he appoints someone like Abubakar Bagudu as Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, a man who, according to the US Justice Department, with others, embezzled, misappropriated, defrauded and extorted billions with a B from the government of Nigeria under the dictator Sani Abacha. Bagudu avoided criminal charges. He cut a deal with the Nigerian government, returned some of the money. But the president literally put Nigeria's budget in the hands of a man who's accused of looting billions of dollars.
You started your introduction by saying it's a sovereign country. The decision of the court in the United States does not bind the Supreme Court of Nigeria.
But he gave $163 million. And that man is now in charge of the Nigerian budget. You're okay with that?
Do
you think it's funny? I mean,
no,
two-thirds of Nigerians...
You think it's funny.
No, I don't. I think people who are giving $163 million back shouldn't be in charge of the country's budget.
Thank you for your observation.
Okay, but do you think they should be in charge of the budget?
There's no evidence that that minister has misappropriated funds in the government of Nigeria.
Why did he give back $163 million?
To Nigeria or to the US government? To
Nigeria.
Why did the US government give him $100 million?
It's a settlement. That's what you do in settlements.
Okay.
Why was he settling?
Yeah, so,
okay. So you're comfortable with a guy who is accused by the US Justice Department of embezzling with the Sani Abacha regime billions of dollars being in charge of the budget?
Are you okay with a president of one of the countries in the world who was convicted by the courts in that land and the person is still governing the country?
Who are you referring
to? No, I'm just asking.
But which country?
Okay, are you also okay? Are you also okay?
Because if it's Donald Trump, I'm a well-known Trump supporter.
Are you also okay with the prime minister of a country who was accused of making a wrong judgment in an appointment that led to a lot of problem, but he has not resigned, he's still governing? Are you okay with that?
Well, by the time this show airs, he may have resigned. So your argument
now
that
Keir Starmer
and Donald Trump, basically everyone else is corrupt. Okay.
In trying to remove Jonathan, there were stateless persons that were from the Sahel region that were imported into Nigeria. And a former chairman of PDP made that statement. I'm not the person that made it.
But that importation is a fact, is it?
That importation is a fact. What has happened in Nigeria is that most of the time when something comes up today, we never sit back and say, how did we get to this point? We got to this point by virtue of the fact of the effort to remove President Jonathan. There had always been this herder-farmer clash, but it never got to this point where whole communities were exterminated so that some people will be roaming freely within their land, which is what happens in Plateau and in Benue State.
I think Benue is the worst hit.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because most of the banks of the Benue is lush because it's watered by the Benue River. And so these people came and they want. And who are these people? And that's a question that we have not dealt with. The bill first said that we have to confine these people to the ranches within their states of origin. And somebody woke up and said, no, every Nigerian has a right to go around. There's no such thing like a state of origin. Why will anybody make that statement? Reason is that in trying to remove Jonathan, there were stateless persons that were from the Sahel region that were imported into Nigeria. And a former chairman of PDP made that statement. I'm not the person that made it.
But that importation is a fact, is it?
That importation is a fact. If you ask any Nigerian Fulani, he will tell you that there's something called the Bororo Fulani. And that Bororo Fulani are these imported ones. They don't own land. Therefore, what they want to do is to settle in Nigeria. They were given free passage, let me just say it, by the Buhari regime. And we were shouting at that time, don't bring people into Nigeria who are not Nigerians. They won't have sympathy. They won't know what has happened. All they want to do is displace you, take over your place, and roam freely within that place.
But there were cattle herders as well.
They were, but the Nigerian cattle herders were not carrying AK-47 rifles and other.
So these guys brought their guns with them.
So these guys brought their guns with them. First thing they did was to start to rustle the cattle belonging to Nigerians. And so a Nigerian herder who loses his cattle has nowhere else to go. He becomes part of them because he is given, okay, you either join us or you got nothing. And some of them, of course, joined. And so we have this complicated problem. And this complicated problem is what we want to solve by saying, can we confine you to a particular place? If you have, okay, what you want to do is to move your cattle from where there is grass to another place where there is grass, and you can roam around with them. And I also pointed out on the floor of the Senate that Governor Ganduje at a particular time said, my state, Kano, has more than enough land for all the herders in Nigeria to go around with it.
Chicago myself. Nobody told me I went to Chicago myself. I went to the court where Bwala Tinubu had this issue. I went to the Chicago State University. I went there, I saw the documents myself. Bwala Tinubu is a known drug lord. I went there. No, another person isn't telling me. You see the picture on the screen. I took that picture. If you move to the right, you're going to see me in that picture. Bwala Tinubu is a known drug lord. He has this man who's meant to be the Minister of Labor and Productivity, or rather say on productivity, who went on TV to try to hoodwink Nigerians, telling them that the charge against Bwala Tinubu was just for tax, that all he paid was tax, that it had nothing to do with drugs. That is a big lie. I have the document here. Nigerians can see it. I hope you can see it on the screen here. I have the document here. It actually says, and if you look at it, it says docket. A docket, and as I'm speaking, your viewers can go on Google and fact check me. A docket is used for a criminal pending. A criminal pending. So you don't use a docket for a civil matter. And then right on the very first paragraph on this docket, it says that this is a forfeiture action under section under 21 USC section 881. USC is the United States Criminal Code. I will say it again. USC is the United States Criminal Code. Now, if you're watching at home, you can go on Google and you can fact check me. The United States Criminal Code is Title 18 USC, United States Criminal Code. And I'm going to read what section 881 of the USC, the Criminal Code, says. Now, this is it. I'm reading it. Nigerians can see it here. This is what I'm reading. It says, the following shall be subject to forfeiture to the United States, and no property rights shall exist in them. All monies, negotiable instruments, securities, or other things of value furnished or intended to be furnished by any person in exchange for a controlled substance or listed chemical in violation of this subchapter. All proceeds traceable to such an exchange, and all monies, negotiable instruments, and securities used or intended to be used to facilitate any violation of this subchapter. The word used there is controlled substances. Now, for Nigerians who may not understand this, a controlled substance are what they call narcotics, hard drugs. In this case, it was white heroin. Bwala Tinubu was involved in a white heroin cartel. We know, and he was the treasurer of that cartel. And then he put some monies into an account. He was working for Mobile. And as he was working for Mobile, his salary was $2,400. Yet he paid in a total of $1.4 million into several accounts. Now, he was asked to explain how he got those monies. He could not explain how he got those monies. So one of those accounts, the money's in there, $460,000, it was forfeited to the United States.
Coming back to haunt you in 4K resolution. But it gets deeper. The video revisits the infamous Chicago court documents, reading directly from the United States Criminal Code regarding the forfeiture of assets linked to controlled substances. We are talking about the $460,000 forfeiture from 1993. The narrator argues that while Nigerians might laugh off these stories, the international community, specifically the US and EU, are building a precedent. They compare the situation to how international powers designated the Iranian Revolutionary Guard before taking action. The claim is that by labeling Nigeria's main political parties as terrorist organizations and revisiting the drug lord narrative, the world is creating a justification for a major intervention. If you thought the bullion vans were the biggest problem, wait until you see the docket numbers. The most explosive part of the video is the claim that these militias were imported for political purposes and have now become the terrorists killing Nigerians in Benue and Plateau. The video quotes sources saying these stateless persons were given free passage under the previous regime and are now roaming freely with AK-47s. The narrator warns that Donald Trump has already made furious statements about coming to Nigeria, guns blazing, to take out terrorists. If the international community decides that the Nigerian government is funding or created these groups, the diplomatic immunity might just evaporate. It's one thing to handle local protests. It's another to handle a US Justice Department that has been keeping receipts for 30 years. So, things they happen community, what do you think? Is this video just political propaganda to scare the administration, or is there a genuine international gang-up happening against Nigeria? I want to see your analysis. Type receipts if you think the past is finally catching up, or propaganda if you think this is all just a reach. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We don't just report the news, we show you the handwriting on the wall. I am your host. Stay informed, stay alert, and watch what you say in 2023 because 2026 is listening. See you in the next one.
That importation is a fact, is it? That importation is a fact. If you ask any Nigerian Fulani, he will tell you that there's something called the Bororo Fulani. And that Bororo Fulani are these imported ones. They don't own land. Therefore, what they want to do is to settle in Nigeria. They were given free passage, let me just say it, by the Buhari regime. And we were shouting at that time, don't bring people into Nigeria who are not Nigerians. They won't have sympathy. They won't know what has happened. All they want to do is displace you,